I never thought I'd be the kind of guy who needed a gym partner. I'd been going to the same fitness center for 3 years, headphones in, head down, following the same routine like clockwork. But that was before Marcus walked into my life on a random Tuesday morning in September, before everything I thought I knew about myself got turned completely upside down. The gym was nearly empty that morning. I was struggling through my third set of deadlifts when I felt someone watching me. Not in a creepy way, more like the way you sense someone's about to tap you on the shoulder. I looked up to find this guy standing a few feet away, arms crossed, studying my form with genuine concern etched across his face. He was maybe an inch taller than me, with dark brown skin that seemed to glow under the fluorescent lights, and these incredibly kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. His hair was cut close, and he wore a simple gray tank top that showed off shoulders I tried not to stare at. "Hey man, I hope this doesn't come off wrong," he said, his voice warm and slightly hesitant, "but I think you might hurt yourself lifting like that. Your back's rounding on the descent. I'm Marcus, by the way. I used to train people before I switched careers." Most people would have been embarrassed. I should have been defensive. Instead, I found myself setting down the barbell and extending my hand. "Luca," I said. "And honestly, I probably have no idea what I'm doing. I've just been copying what I see other people do." That's how it started. Marcus offered to show me proper form, and before I knew it, we'd spent 45 minutes going through my entire routine. Him correcting my posture, adjusting my grip, explaining the biomechanics in a way that actually made sense. He had this way of teaching that never made you feel stupid, only curious to learn more. We started meeting 3 mornings a week. It became the thing I looked forward to most, which should have been my first clue that something was shifting inside me. I'd wake up on gym days with this nervous energy humming through my veins, would spend extra time in front of the mirror making sure my hair looked casually perfect, would pick my workout clothes with more care than I'd ever admit to anyone. Marcus was easy to be around. He had this infectious laugh that made everyone in the gym turn and smile. He worked as a software developer now, but talked about his personal training days with obvious fondness. He was patient when I struggled, encouraging without being patronizing, and he had this gift for knowing exactly when to push me harder and when to ease off. But it was the small things that got to me. The way his hand would linger on my shoulder when he was explaining something. How he'd stand close enough that I could smell his cologne, something clean and woody that made my thoughts scatter. The way his eyes would hold mine just a beat longer than necessary when he was checking if I understood his instructions. I told myself it was nothing. I'd had close male friends before. I'd played sports in high school, shared locker rooms, done all the typical guy bonding things. This was the same, just in a different setting. The fact that my heart rate spiked when Marcus texted me had nothing to do with him specifically. It was just excitement about working out, about getting healthier, about having a friend who cared about my progress. I was lying to myself, of course, but it would take a while before I was ready to admit that. The moment everything changed happened about 6 weeks into our training partnership. We were working on my squat form, which had been a persistent problem. I kept leaning too far forward, putting strain on my lower back instead of engaging my legs properly. "Okay," Marcus said after my third failed attempt. "I think I need to physically show you what I mean. Is it cool if I guide you through the movement?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. My mouth had gone dry. Marcus moved behind me, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating off his body. "Reset your stance," he instructed. I adjusted my feet. "Little wider." I moved them apart. "Good. Now I'm going to put my hands on your hips to help you feel the proper movement pattern." His hands settled on my hips, firm and warm, even through my gym shorts. My breath caught. I hoped he couldn't hear it. "I want you to think about sitting back into a chair," he said, his voice right by my ear now. "Push your hips back first, then bend your knees. Keep your chest up." His chest pressed against my back as he guided me down into the squat. I could feel every point of contact between us, his hands on my hips, his chest against my shoulders, his breath on my neck. "Feel that? That's where you should be. Your weight is in your heels, your core is tight, your spine is neutral." I wasn't feeling my form. I was feeling him, every nerve ending in my body suddenly awake and screaming. My heart was pounding so hard I was certain he could feel it. When he guided me back up, his hands stayed on my hips, steadying me. "You okay?" he asked. "You're shaking." "Yeah," I managed. "Just, muscle fatigue." He stepped back and I immediately missed his presence. "Try it on your own now," he said. I went through the motion, my body now understanding what he'd been trying to explain for weeks. But I couldn't focus on the achievement. All I could think about was how right it had felt to have him pressed against me, his hands on my body, his voice in my ear. That night, lying in bed, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the moment over and over, the way my body had responded to his touch, the disappointment I'd felt when he'd stepped away, the fact that I wanted him to touch me again, wanted it with an intensity that scared me. I'd never thought of myself as gay. I'd dated women in college, had a serious girlfriend for 2 years after graduation. It hadn't worked out, but I'd chalked that up to incompatibility, not because of anything fundamental about my sexuality. I'd never looked at men the way I looked at women, never felt that spark of attraction, except now I was feeling it. For Marcus, and I had no idea what to do with that information. I considered canceling our next session. Maybe if I put some distance between us, these feelings would fade. But Wednesday morning came, and I found myself at the gym anyway, watching the door until he walked through it. "Morning," he said with that easy smile. "Ready to work?" We fell into our routine, but everything felt different now. Every casual touch felt loaded with meaning. When he spotted me during bench press, his hands hovering near the bar, I found myself hyper-aware of his proximity. When he demonstrated a new exercise, I caught myself watching the way his muscles moved rather than paying attention to the technique. And sometimes, I'd catch him looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Something soft and uncertain that would disappear as soon as our eyes met. After our workout, as we were both grabbing our bags from the lockers, Marcus cleared his throat. "Hey, so this might be weird, but do you want to grab coffee sometime? Not gym-related, just, as friends hanging out." My heart did this stupid flutter thing. "Yeah," I said, trying to sound casual. "That sounds good." We met that Saturday at a small coffee shop near my apartment. It was the first time I'd seen Marcus in regular clothes, jeans, and a fitted Henley that made him look somehow both more relaxed and more attractive. We talked for 3 hours, about everything and nothing. He told me about growing up in Atlanta, about his complicated relationship with his parents, about why he'd switched from personal training to software development. I found myself opening up too, sharing things I rarely talked about, my struggles with anxiety, my fear that I was drifting through life without any real purpose, the loneliness I felt even when surrounded by people. "I get that," Marcus said, his fingers wrapped around his coffee cup. "That sense of disconnection, like you're performing the role of yourself rather than actually living." "Exactly," I said, feeling seen in a way I hadn't in years. "How did you get past it?" He was quiet for a moment. "Honestly, I'm still working on it, but I think it starts with being honest about who you are and what you want, even when that's terrifying." There was something in the way he said it, in the way his eyes held mine, that made me wonder if we were still talking about general life philosophy or something more specific. We started hanging out outside the gym regularly after that. Movies on Friday nights, dinner at hole-in-the-wall restaurants we'd find on random drives, long walks through the park near the river where we'd talk until the sun set. My life began to reorganize itself around Marcus. Everything else felt like filler between the moments I got to spend with him. My friend Sarah noticed the change. "You're different lately," she said one evening when we met for drinks. "Happier. Are you seeing someone?" "No," I said automatically. Then, because I'd never been good at lying to Sarah, I added, I've been spending a lot of time with this friend from the gym." "Friend?" She raised an eyebrow. "You've got that look." "What look?" "The look people get when they're falling for someone but haven't admitted it yet." She leaned forward. "So what's her name?" I took a long drink of my beer. "His name is Marcus." Sarah's expression shifted from teasing to something softer. "Oh," she said. "Then, Luca, are you—" "I don't know what I am," I said, the words tumbling out. "I've never felt like this before. About anyone, really, but definitely not about a guy. And I don't know if he feels the same way or if I'm just projecting because I'm confused about my own feelings. And I'm terrified that if I say something, I'll ruin the best friendship I've had in years. Sarah reached across the table and squeezed my hand. For what it's worth, the way you talk about him, the way your whole face lights up when you say his name, that's not confusion. That's pretty clear. But knowing what I felt and doing something about it were two different things. Weeks passed. Marcus and I grew closer, our friendship deepening into something that felt both comfortable and electric. There were moments when I was certain he felt it too, the tension that hummed between us, the way conversations would trail off and we'd just look at each other, how we'd gravitated toward sitting closer and closer on his couch during movie nights until our thighs pressed together. Then came the night that forced everything into the open. We were at my apartment, attempting to cook dinner together, which mostly involved Marcus actually cooking while I chopped vegetables and tried not to be completely useless. He was telling me some story about his coworker, animated and laughing, and I was watching him with this overwhelming surge of affection. He turned to grab something and caught me staring. "What?" he asked, smiling. "Nothing," I said. I'm really glad we're friends." Something flickered across his face. "Friends," he repeated, and there was an edge to his voice I'd never heard before. "Yeah, me too." He turned back to the stove, but the easy atmosphere had shifted. We finished cooking in relative silence, the air thick with something unspoken. We ate dinner making stilted small talk. When we were done, Marcus stood up abruptly. "I should probably head out," he said, "early morning tomorrow." "Marcus, wait." I stood too. Did I say something wrong? He ran his hand over his head, a gesture I'd learned meant he was stressed. "No, Luca, you didn't say anything wrong. That's kind of the problem." "I don't understand." He looked at me then, really looked at me, and I saw something raw and vulnerable in his expression. "Do you really not know? After all these months? The way I look at you, the excuses I make to touch you, the fact that I rearranged my entire schedule just to see you 3 times a week?" My heart was hammering. "Marcus, I'm crazy about you," he said, the words coming out in a rush. "I have been since probably that first day when you let me correct your form instead of telling me to mind my own business. And I've been trying so hard to be content with friendship because I thought that's all you wanted, all you could want. But Luca, it's killing me, being this close to you and pretending I don't want more." I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, could only feel this huge swell of emotion rising in my chest. "You think I just want friendship? Don't you?" His voice cracked slightly. "You said you were glad we're friends." "Because I didn't think I could have more," I said. "Because I've been terrified that if I told you how I feel, you'd walk away, and I couldn't handle that. Marcus, I think about you constantly. When I wake up, before I fall asleep, during every moment in between. You've turned my entire understanding of myself upside down, and it's been scary and confusing, and the best thing that's ever happened to me." He took a step closer. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want more too. I want everything. With you." The words felt like jumping off a cliff. I don't have this figured out. I don't know what labels fit or how to navigate any of this, but I know that what I feel for you is real, and I'm tired of pretending it's not. Marcus closed the distance between us in 2 strides. His hand came up to cup my face, his thumb brushing my cheekbone. "Can I kiss you?" he asked softly. I nodded, not trusting my voice. When his lips met mine, it was like everything clicked into place. Every confused feeling, every moment of tension, every time I'd caught myself staring at him, it all made sense. This was what I'd been missing, what I'd been searching for without knowing. Not a woman who checked the right boxes, but this person, this man who saw me completely and somehow still wanted me. The kiss was gentle at first, tentative, both of us learning this new language. Then Marcus's other hand slid to the back of my neck, and I gripped his shirt, pulling him closer, and gentle became urgent. Months of wanting poured into that kiss, all the longing and fear and hope tangled together. When we finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Marcus rested his forehead against mine. "I've wanted to do that for so long," he murmured. "Me too," I said. I just didn't let myself admit it. We stood there in my kitchen, holding each other, and I felt something settle in my chest, a rightness I'd never experienced before. This was who I was supposed to be with. This was what love was supposed to feel like. That was 8 months ago. We've been together ever since, navigating this relationship with the same patience and care Marcus showed me in the gym. Some days are harder than others. Coming out to my family was rough, though they've slowly come around. Some friends drifted away, but the ones who mattered stayed and supported us. Marcus moved in 3 months ago. My apartment became our apartment, filled with both our things, our lives intertwining in ways that feel natural and right. We still go to the gym together 3 mornings a week, though now when he adjusts my form, when his chest presses against my back and his hands guide my hips, there's no confusion about what I'm feeling. Just gratitude that I found someone who saw me struggling and decided to help, who became my friend and then my partner, and now the person I can't imagine my life without. Last week, I caught him watching me as I made coffee in the morning, the same way I used to watch him. When I asked what he was thinking, he smiled and said, "Just that I'm really glad you had terrible deadlift form." I laughed and kissed him, tasting coffee and toothpaste and home. Best poor form I ever had, I agreed. People ask me sometimes if I always knew I was gay, if there were signs I missed. The truth is, I don't know. Maybe I was always capable of loving a man and just never met the right one. Maybe my sexuality is more fluid than I understood. Maybe labels matter less than I thought they did. What I know for certain is that Marcus changed my life. He taught me proper squat form and how to engage my core and the importance of rest days. But more than that, he taught me that sometimes the person you need isn't who you expected. That love can sneak up on you in a gym at 6 in the morning. That being vulnerable and honest, even when it terrifies you, is the only way to find what you're really looking for. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy who needed a gym partner. Turns out, I didn't need a gym partner at all. I needed Marcus, and now I have him, and everything else is just details.